Greetings, everyone. It's your boy C Life. I'm here with KWebb, and we're
What's
about
up,
to get
man?
into a lively discussion about some current events. We're gonna bring up some stuff from our last session. Uh, so let's dive in. We're gonna try to see if we can decipher through the hard times that we face in
Yep.
this world. So KWebb, man, what what's going on in Ohio? What's going on in the world? What's up?
Oh man, so we celebrating because 4th of July, Independence Day, everything is right with the world, except for in Ohio.
Hmm.
Cause so yeah, man. You probably talking about uh this car chase and police involved shooting of this young man who, how old was he? I don't even remember how old he was.
25.
A 25-year-old man who,
He's
um,
25.
so car chase, right? The police tried to stop him. He didn't stop, and he allegedly fired a shot at them, and it all went south from there, right? Um, Dude ran, jumped out of the car, and
I
they
mean,
just neutralized the threat, right?
listen. I think I think one of the major issues, because a lot is happening in Ohio. One of the but I think Ohio is just kind of like it's happening first there. I don't
Yeah,
we already know that
it's not an
police shootings is
anomaly.
something that's happening all over the nation, but I mean, I think so. There are a number of factors, but I think one of the main factors that deal with the specific issues that are going on, such as the shooting of Jayland, um, and uh, the forcible pregnancy of a 10-year-old sexually assaulted young woman.
Wait a minute, back up, back
I can't.
up. Paint that picture for me
So
because people might not know.
so yeah, that's it's so much going on, and I think really it's all a matter of discernment, being able to judge well, because unfortunately things are not cookie cuttered in real life, right? You can have some frame of right and wrong, but whatever your moral frame is, it really depends and comes down to what's going on the ground, right? How do you make judgments in real life scenarios? And this is just these are just examples of how the system fails to empower people to make those judgments, right? And
Hmm.
so the issue that is pertinent to last week that actually kind of really pushes me back and puts my foot all the way in my mouth is a 10-year-old. You have a 10-year-old, and I can't even, I'm sorry, and this may be paternalistic, but I have a daughter, so that's just what it's going to be. A 10-year-old little girl. I cannot call a 10-year-old a young woman. A 10-year-old is a little girl. At 10 years old, you're just really learning how to wash yourself properly. You're just really learning how to floss your teeth. You could just be held accountable for actually flossing and maybe preparing small meals and things like this. So you're still very much a little kid. You can't even go to a PG-13 movie. At least you're not supposed to. And so if there are movies that you can't see because they don't fit within your age range, I think it's safe to call you a child.
Yeah.
Okay? So this
Yep.
is a 10-year-old child is forced to travel from Ohio to Indiana for an abortion because that 10-year-old was a sexual assault victim. Trigger warning, the 10-year-old was raped.
I was about to say, yeah, yeah.
And
And go
I
ahead.
say trigger warning before that because when you when you think about just the devastation of the family, just by learning that, by that coming to light, having to go into a doctor's office to get checked out for something like this, finding that you're 6 weeks pregnant and you're ineligible for an abortion because of 3 days. 3 days. And so you have to move, and you have politicians who have the unmitigated gall to suggest that there's a problem because no one's talking about the quote pervert, horrible, and deranged individual that raped a 10-year-old girl. Well, guess what? That person is a pervert. That person is deranged, and that person should be held accountable to the full extent of the law. And still, all of that happening for the perpetrator does not aid the victim in the havoc that's wreaked on her life psychologically from experiencing that. So we didn't even go into a 10-year-old child being pregnant. But a 10-year-old body can't hold safely a child. They don't even have the hormone. A 10-year-old is still a decade away, nearly a decade away from a fully developed brain. At 10 years old, you haven't even been to high school.
Listen, wait. Let me interject because I'm reading it as I was looking this up. I'm reading this specific passage from a Teen Vogue article, and it says in April, before Roe was overturned, Ohio Representative Jean Smith, who had proposed a near total abortion ban, was asked if her bill would force a teenage rape victim to carry a pregnancy to term instead of allowing an abortion. In response to the question, Smith called rape resulting in pregnancy an opportunity. It is a shame that it happens, but there's an opportunity for that woman, no matter how young or old she is, to make a determination about what she's going to do to help that life be a productive human being.
Wow. So here we see, when I was talking about kind of the general moral frame of discerning, when is it okay to end a life for the sake of another life? Two factors that need to be kind of put in here is the physical sacrifice that a woman must make to hold a child. Yeah. And then the question becomes whether or not you can force someone to make such a sacrifice. So that's another question that kind of comes in. It's not without an expense to the hormonal balance of the woman and to her physical well-being. So it is an expense. All right. So you that question comes in. But aside from that question that we didn't really take up too much last week, the other question is this: a 10-year-old cannot even legally agree to a sexual encounter.
Right.
Based on the cognitive formation of the brain. Society says that this 10-year-old, whether a man or a woman, whether a boy or girl, cannot consent to a sexual encounter. Let that settle in for us for a second. You can't even say yes to a situation like that legally.
But because for the life of the for the unborn, it's okay. We throw out all of that rationale that we've had before because the life of the unborn.
This is clear. This is a clear example that the problem is discernment, the ability to make a sound, reasonable judgment. When you're discerning stuff, you're gonna face hard issues. Okay? I would be lying to myself to say that I don't care fully and wholeheartedly for the life of the unborn. I do. I think I made that very clear last week. Okay. In a situation of a 10-year-old, there's no question. Zero question. 10-year-old, I can a 10-year-old choose? We don't know. That's why I said legally, a 10-year-old cannot make that choice to engage in a sexual encounter. Okay? So that that should just be a clear sign to you. Mentally, this small person does not have what it takes to be a parent. That's a fact. Physically, this small person does not have what it takes to hold in their womb a being and bring that being to term without serious problems happening for her own body. And that is all with not even engaging the terror and the trauma that comes at this situation.
That age. Yeah.
Right. So we didn't need, we're not even, the government doesn't seem to be able to make reasonable choices, and that should scare us. This is ridiculous.
So let
Someone
me ask.
someone saying and trying to divert a question who can potentially be a running mate for a presidential candidate.
Hmm.
That's a problem, and it's a problem of judgment.
So okay. First, I don't disagree with anything you said because, like, legally, this is not an adult. You're not the age of consent. You can't do these things. However, we're gonna trust you with one of the most difficult tasks in life, which is to bring life to bear. But let's say that the body somehow miraculously does it. What have we done to this 10-year-old and their cognitive, social, and emotional development by taking them out of the places, the schools, right? And so what then will
Yeah.
happen down the line is another life of just hardship and just the baby, the new child that is coming. How can this 10-year-old who is unaware of life help bring that right? It's like so many things. But then the question I'd ask.
So the 10-year-old that let's put it in complete context, okay? Let's take for a side, let's just change it just to talk about a 10-year-old. If the 10-year-old wanted everything, had a little 14-year-old boyfriend and agreed somehow to engage in this sort of encounter, and there was a baby involved, and that 14-year-old and that 10-year-old was like, we love each other and we want to get married, and their parents were delusional enough to agree to this. When that child was 2, 3 years old and needed to, I don't know, get their teeth checked, neither one of the biological parents can even sign a waiver. They're not legal. They're not legal citizens to sign a waiver. They can't vote. They can't have a real job.
Yeah, there is
What?
that.
What about nothing about this seems close to reasonable. Okay. And again, I took all the problems, all of what the right was saying. Well, this is, we don't, do we punish the kid for the sins of the father? I won't even get into that. Okay. We won't get into the biblical credibility of that thought.
Mm-hmm.
So we won't get into that. But this is not that. This is a matter of the two lives. The 10-year-old life will, in every factor of living, be ruined.
Negatively
Every
impacted.
single factor: social, psychological, physical, emotional, cognitively. Everything will be
Financially.
impacted. Financially. I mean, spiritually. Like,
Done.
this is a recipe for disaster. That's if the physical expense of holding a kid does not kill her. If
I just had a wondering thought. Okay, she's 10. If she's lucky enough to have insurance with her parents, does her parents' insurance cover the prenatal care and all of this stuff, or does she have to get that on her own, which she can't?
I mean, the parents would need to adopt the child. She's not old enough to sign legal documents.
Mm.
Birth certificate, getting social security card, getting insurance for the baby, all of that. This system is not set up to affirm this. The state is not set up to take care of something like this.
So basically, in the way that the legislators have conceived this law and what they've done, they don't anticipate teenage girls or people younger than the age of consent becoming pregnant. Is that sort of
so this is where, to me, it's like it's a matter of discernment. Okay, you should not make a law with the anticipation of people being sexually assaulted. They're not supposed to be sexually assaulted, so that shall always be a contingency. It should always be in the law. It should be a contingency plan when someone is mistreated and abused. Okay, so it would make sense to say, these are the laws, and then have contingencies for different circumstances within those laws. But I mean, this is a perfect example that they're not
thinking that way.
They're not able to do that. They're not able to judge the weightier matters of the law. They're not able to search all things and to hold fast that which is good, because they're not able to actually discern good from evil.
I don't know that I would say that they're not able. I don't think they're incentivized to. I don't think they're incentivized to. Their allegiances aren't to discern the weightier matters. Their allegiance and their desires are to win. And
listen, if you are a judge in this state, this should be a no-brainer. And if it's about incentives, about winning, wouldn't this not be a great case to move the moderate to your position? To say, hey, when we're saying that it is illegal after 6 weeks, this is not what we mean. We have contingency for this. What we mean is consensual adults who decide after they got pregnant that they don't want to be responsible for the choices that they made. Not people who aren't making choices.
Who had their choice taken away from them.
So that's not the same thing. And that's not the same thing at all. And the funny thing is, in other legal situations, there are contingencies for this. There are contingencies for this. There are contingencies for psychological lapses and insanity and psychological ailments when you do things.
But there also, in some states, abortion laws were exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother, those types of things. Like the quote that I read from Teen Vogue, that particular lawmaker was supporting or proposing a near total abortion ban where it didn't matter. So these are choices.
That's right. But this is my point. Discernment, and this lack of discernment comes from a willful ignorance and blindness to the real difficult and serious matter of human judgment. It's not easy. When it's not always going to be a clear right. It's not. And if you're not prepared to judge within the gray, you might get it wrong, but still preparing and thinking about the fact that it's going to come your way. You're going to have to you're going to have to judge in areas where it doesn't seem very clear. You're going to have to be trained and practice distinguishing good from evil. It's just that simple. And this, in the case of 10-year-old, there's nothing but evil here. Nothing but evil.
Yeah, from the perpetrator that impregnated her to the lawmakers that are not seeing the humanity of this child
at all. This is the height of just perpetuated and perpetual evil.
Okay. All right. Let's switch gears. What's that other story that?
Another discernment story. Discernment story. And it's easy to chop this up and say, you know, it's another brother being killed by the police. Which, I mean, in simplest terms, it is. But so you have a 25-year-old, okay, an 18-minute car chase, and then approximately a 10-second foot chase before over 90 shots are fired and 60 bullets hit this 25-year-old brother. 60.
90 shots fired.
He got shot 60 times.
A shot appeared to
I don't even think they counted 8 officers. Here's what CNN reports. You have 8 officers, each firing dozens of bullets. So it's 8 officers firing. Okay? 8 officers fire. It's about 16 bullets in a clip. It's about 16 bullets in a clip. Those 8 officers wound a moving target with 60 shots. The video comes out, you hear a clear ceasefire, and everybody stops firing. So I mean, let's talk about it. This is clear. This is clear problem of discernment. I can tell you why, but I want to hear your thoughts on this.
You know, I've heard it, I've read things, but I've tried not to get engulfed. I've tried not to really pay a whole lot of attention because each time I feel myself getting more and more frustrated and angry with people, with the system, and it honestly, it makes me want to do something more than what have been done, right? And so I try not to get inflamed with these things, but just there appeared to be, right? So I'm looking at this article. This is NPR. He was attempted to stop Walker's car early Monday for unspecified traffic and equipment violations. What is that? What is an unspecified traffic or equipment violation? Oh, your turn signal wasn't working. Yeah. You didn't, right?
We don't know.
And now this person is dead because of a traffic violation. They heard in less than a minute into the chase. This is NPR article. Less than a minute into the chase, they heard what appeared to be a shot, and traffic equipment appeared to pick up a muzzle flash. So now it's a public safety issue, and police feared that he was attempting to do something. But 60 shots, 90 shots, 60 after the. I wonder, was he still standing after all 60 where you had to keep going? Probably not. But I believe that that officers, law enforcement is trained that this person must have done something bad, and so we must eliminate the threat and then ask questions later, because we have qualified immunity, because we can say that we feared, because we can say whatever we need to say, because we have a history of getting off. So I have no sympathy for the officers. And I don't believe that there was any, if there were 8 officers and one person running away, isn't it illegal to shoot a fleeing suspect?
See, and this is where it becomes, let's back up. Let's say, one, you don't have traffic pictures in a real live 18-minute chase. It takes longer to get those pictures off of any traffic camera. You don't do that. That doesn't happen like, hey,
Instantaneously.
you're in a high-speed chase and you call and you say, hey man, I need you to check those photos for me. So that's all post cleanup duty. Maybe you did hear a gunshot. Maybe you thought you did see a gun. Okay? And you called a high-speed chase. Maybe in fact there was, if all of this is true, and you're rightfully chasing a suspect. That suspect slows the car down, gets out of the car, and starts to run away on foot. Police are in vehicles. You're being chased by multiple police officers. Okay? Let's say, to put some numbers around it, there are 2 police officers per vehicle. At the minimum, that's 4 cars chasing you. For 8, we're not even counting any of the other officers on the scene. We're just counting the 8 that allegedly fired shots. So that's at least 4 vehicles. A criminal who is willing to engage with the police stops the car, jumps out, and runs. They don't shoot. Right? Someone who is a threat, a physical threat to you. You're not in a standoff with someone who has a rifle. I believe something like that happened this week. That's not this. You're chasing someone who's running away from you. And you shoot enough to hit this person 60 times. Now, here's the thing. There's no way that all 8 officers didn't follow protocol. So all 8 at one time didn't fire. All 8 of them was just super scared. Not in hit 60 times. It's not a matter of training. If you can hit a moving target that many times, I would say that you're pretty well trained. While you're on a chase, at least you know how to fire a weapon. They say that they shot the taser and the taser missed. And they kept chasing them, and you pull out your weapon. The thing is, what are the rules of engagement? Because what they did not expect is for this brother to be unarmed. That's what they did. They didn't expect him to be unarmed when they got up on him. And it's clearly a problem of discernment. The reason why I can say it's a problem of discernment is because regardless if it says that it's okay for you to shoot, which it seems like it did, since all 8 of them opened fire enough to hit a guy 60 times. So it wasn't like they just shot a couple of times and then stopped. They engaged fire. On the tape. You can hear whoever's in charge clearly say cease fire, and they immediately stop. So it's not people that's in a emotional height. They're following protocol. They're following the regiment. Obviously, their adrenaline is high. But what's the protocol, for one? And are they unable to make decisions in the moment? Someone can't say, we don't need to shoot him. We can surround the area that he's fleeing from because we have 4 other cars. No one thinks we're going to pursue on foot while the other cars try to go around the block. They don't actually engage in an actual pursuit. 10 seconds into running, you're shooting. How far did you run, out of shape officer, before you took out your weapon? I don't want to go too far in this because I can already feel myself just getting really moving beyond my reason because I'm angry at the situation, and I don't want to do that. Especially not. I don't. I shouldn't. You shouldn't make a practice of doing that at all. My point is, even if the protocol, even if the rules of engagement says it's okay to fire, okay to engage, that does not mean that the actual circumstances demand that you use deadly force. And you can't tell me it's not deadly force when you're firing open. You're firing at a moving target in the open. So evidently you're okay with stray bullets.
So yes to all of that. And one thing that I think we should get away from is, and not accusing you of doing it, but just kind of in general, we sort of isolate these things from their historical and their cultural context. And by joining them, I think it paints a more damning picture, but a more honest picture. And just like you said, they did not plan on him not being armed. And so the protocol is black suspect running away, must be guilty, fire at will, and we'll figure it out because likely he's got a gun and we can say that he turned to shoot at us. Like some type of narrative like that, but I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind. There should not be any doubt in anybody's mind that with these type, shoot first, ask questions later. Because as you alluded to, there was a different suspect in a different place, but it seems like the white mass killers always are taken in without incident. The ones that are armed, the ones that are actually dangerous,
that are actually
no incident,
that are clearly willing to engage.
Yes.
A standoff with somebody with a rifle.
And no bullets fired. None. We're gonna talk him out.
So because you had to run is different? Because you had to run is different? That's what it is?
Yeah.
So it'd be different. Honestly, I would have a different perspective if brother turned around and started shooting at the cops. I have a completely different perspective of the whole situation. If he was hanging out the window shooting at a moving car, I'd have a clearly different perspective. I would have a clearly different perspective if he showed any signs that he was willing to enter a physical altercation with these police officers.
He did. He turned around.
No, he didn't. He was running away.
It said that he turned around, which is why they started firing. That's what I heard in one of the reports. He was running, and then he turned at them.
He didn't have a weapon.
His blackness was his weapon.
I mean, listen, something was, because he didn't have a weapon. And it's interesting that they found a weapon in his car. Did they count how many bullets was in the weapon to see if it was actually fired? That didn't come out. I don't know if they did or they didn't. But it seems like the allegation of him shooting out the window could easily be verifiable with ballistics.
Proven or disproven.
You can tell. Yeah. I mean, even if you didn't take the weapon to a scientist immediately, you can tell if a gun's been fired. It has gunpowder on it and residue. And there should be another round in the chamber if it's a semi-automatic weapon. And there should be rounds missing from the clip. So it's not very difficult to note if the gun that's in the car is the
has been
same
fired.
weapon that allegedly fired out the window. So it's just this sort of discernment stuff, this sort of makes sense stuff. But again, fire at will does not demand a will to fire. Okay, and that's when it comes to, if I say fire at will, that's not a command for you to shoot. It's for a command for you to judge whether or not to shoot. Now I don't know if that was a command. I mean, they could have said engage. They could have said fire. I don't know what the command was. What I'm saying is, it doesn't seem that 60 hits of an unarmed human is something that 8 people went against protocol. This is a clear problem of two things: that in these situations, people are not making judgments, not reasonable ones, not basic ones that we expect civilians to make. Okay? Because if you shoot somebody on the street that's unarmed, you're going to jail. If you shoot somebody that is not physically engaged you, you can't say I was in fear for my life. They don't have a weapon and you haven't been physically engaged. Right? So if you expect a civilian that does not have body armor on, that has not been trained, that is not in a high-speed chase, if you have a higher expectation for a civilian,
I mean, this is America. Happy Independence Day. So,
well,
all right. So, what comes of this? Because I think the interesting thing is going to be the investigation and whatever comes out of that. And I don't think that I'm going out on a limb here saying that in a lot of people's minds, there's probably not going to be any real consequences for this.
Well, if you think that you can hold the 8 officers accountable, that's not going to work. Because I would be very, 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 unless it's some sort of underlying corruption that's going on in the police department, which that happens in police departments, so that's not unreasonable. That could happen. But unless that something like that is uncovered, there's no way 8 people fire that many shots against protocol. There's no way that happens, especially when they're not actually being engaged. There's no way that happens.
So you're saying that this is
8?
the training. This is what they were taught.
This is what they were taught and what they were trained to do. And it's a problem. It's a problem with the training. Just because from very on, it looks like they're just kind of regimentally following protocols. When you jump out and you're shooting a taser, you're supposed to get the taser off before you shoot a real weapon. So it's not like they don't know that. At least one of them knows I got to try to hit him with a taser to stop him from running. At least one of them knows that. Then you said that he turned around and all of them start firing. Like I said, the video helps to clarify it. It is a shower of bullets in that video. A shower. It literally sounds like a automatic weapon going off. Shower bullets. Ceasefire, everybody stops. So this seems like there's some legal issues going on in the state of Ohio. And there needs to be some serious reformation as it relates to just kind of basic principles. I did not think, and I probably was just being naive, that there were people that were this far and this unreasonable
in
as it
there.
relates to the issue of Roe v. Wade and just basic discernment. What you basic? I say basic discernment is a very difficult process, but just the practice of discerning. And I mean,
This is human
even
decency and
to,
common sense.
and it's definitely not common sense. We clearly see that. This is just the start, man. This is just a
Oh,
start.
yes.
It
Yes.
it's going to be every case that's like this 10-year-old case is going to be brought to light, and it should be. If it should be, if you're trying to make legal changes, these cases should be brought to light. I just want to see if there are going to be any actual states that have the ability to discern and say we do support life. This is not that. It isn't.
Mm, mm.
You can't make a choice, and so one of the major arguments is the problem with abortion is that people engage in sexual encounter. That was their choice. The sexual encounter was their choice. The possibility of a sexual encounter is a child. Another possibility of a sexual encounter is an STD, some disease that you can't get rid of. So this is a byproduct or fruit of a seed that you sown, literally. Okay, so we shouldn't end this life unless it is a threat to this life. Now, in the 10-year-old case, so much of that falls apart. One, it is not a choice. This was not a choice. And any sexual assault case is not a choice.
Right.
So even beyond that, this goes to the point of, as a law, how are you protecting your citizens? How are you protecting the citizen? Right? So the citizen was assaulted, and now you're telling the citizen, well, since you were assaulted, you have to you have to sacrifice your body for the seed of your assaulter.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is when that argument of maybe the state is trying to govern people's morals becomes even more clear. So if you're a lawmaker, if you're in the legal world, if you're a judge, if you're a decision maker on this matter, it should be very clear to you. When we talk about banning abortion, we're speaking very clearly about people who are willfully engaging in sex. And instead of having their children that come as a byproduct of that sex, killing those children. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about women whose lives are threatened because they can't carry the baby physically because of various types of pregnancies. So with a baby that's literally killing the mother. How's that a question? If these were two humans outside of the womb, it wouldn't be a question. It wouldn't be a question. That's literally self-defense. Is it not? Somebody comes to your house and tries to kill you and you kill them, that's self-defense. So that wouldn't be a question.
Yeah.
The other thing, though, is there is credence. And that's why I said, discerning is a big deal. Because there is credence to, even if I chose to engage in a sexual encounter, and now a baby has an unwanted pregnancy has happened, I still have to. You're still demanding that I sacrifice my body physically. Can you say, even with your own moral frame, that you can force someone to sacrifice that way? Do we believe in forcible? Can you prove forcible sacrifice? I don't. I don't think you can. I don't
You
think
know
you can
what?
prove forcible sacrifice. Not
These,
morally.
these some of these people
That kind
who
of
are
defeats the purpose
of the
of
sacrifice, right?
sacrifice. Yeah.
But some of the people who are pushing this and saying, no, you need to do this, are the same ones like, you can't force me to wear a mask. Right? Similar. Freedom. It's freedom for me, but not for thee. It's that
Exactly.
hypocrisy
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
causes people these issues.
It is some serious it's some serious hypocrisy, but I mean situations like this just prove like, listen, you're expecting a wicked system to uphold any sort of righteousness is just ridiculous.
Right.
So
Right.
from a Christian point of view, situations like this just say, listen, you don't have Christians in government. You can't possibly tell me that this is clear discernment. You know why you can tell me it's not clear discernment? Because it ain't even no arguing. It's not even people on the same side arguing against each other about which way to operate in this worldview. That's how you know that it's a problem. No one said, hey, wait a minute, we're talking 3 days here. And this is a 10-year-old. 3 days here? We empower police officers not to be that strict on suspended licenses. You telling me you arrested this guy because his license suspended was expired 3 days ago? For real? He threw him in jail? Come on, man. Like that's crazy. We have people who actually commit real crimes, who choose to commit real crimes, they get out because it's their first offense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you're gonna force a 10-year-old to travel to have an abortion for 3 days? This is this sort of stuff that you just be like, man, God, like you listen, you
You
can't
can't
make a
make this stuff
decision.
up.
Yeah, you can't. You, it's just not. It's not built for the decision making process, and that's part of the issue. That's part of the issue. There should have been someone that family, that doctor could have easily called. It should have been someone that can make the decision. Hey, in cases like this law doesn't immediately
Doesn't
apply.
apply.
Yeah, this law doesn't apply to situations like this.
So maybe because of a situation like this, people will actually be awakened to the absurdity with which things are done and implemented, and reasonable people will start to moderate their positions and start to say, look, all right, I know you feel this way, I feel this way, but we got to do something about this.
Yeah.
Because there's no way, but just based on who we have in our government, and they say that people get the government they deserve. I don't know that there's anybody with that. There are very few people, I'll say, very few elected officials with the courage to stand up and say, look, all of y'all, all of us are being foolish. What do we do with this? So I mean,
but
Ohio, man, Ohio is
basically,
hot.
basically, it boils down to this. People are so quick to judge another person. But when it comes to discernment, really, you're looking at a situation. You're looking at the facts of a given situation. And hopefully what you're seeing is right. It does begin to stimulate conversation to say, let me consider the argument of the other side before I demonize or glorify a person that represents the other side. Let me actually think about the facts. And this would be good if American citizens did this for voting. Let me look at the policies. Not what the media is saying about this person or that person. Let me look at what is the running platform of this person. What are they trying to do when they get into office? Are they trying to elect super conservative Supreme Court so that they can get what they want done. Right. So what is this person trying to do? What's their running platform? How much of it aligns with what I believe is best for the country? How much of it doesn't align with what I believe is best for the country? Things like this. What is the policy? What are the rules of engagement? Before I start, demonizing 8 cops, which listen, if they were criminal, but you can't know if they're criminal if you don't know the rules of engagement. You're just talking general. You don't know what's on the books in that state. You can't demonize them. And unless you know the components of a gun, unless you've been around gunshot fire, you probably don't know how you would engage or wouldn't engage. So those kind of secondary issues, asking what the rules of engagement are, has nothing to do with whether you would engage or not, because you're not a police officer. But you see how that's moving away from the person and judging the respectability of a person to the actual situation. In this situation, was this just or unjust? I think all the protesters in Ohio right now would say that it's unjust. But the only way that policy is going to change if we can pinpoint where it was unjust
and it went wrong
in an actionable way. Saying that these was a whole bunch of racist cops, racism isn't illegal. It isn't.
And that's that. Yeah.
So even if that's 100% true, that these are a bunch of racist cops, you saying that they're racist and yelling out in the streets that they're racist means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It's what is the problem? What sort of system made this okay?
Right.
What sort of system made this okay?
It's that nuance and detail that we are too busy to do because we just believe what we're told to believe based on which side jersey we wear. Yeah. And everybody who opposes us, they're bad, they're evil, they're demonized. But that raises some good food for thought about how do we engage and how do we, whether we're protesting or whether we're just outraged, how is it that we change our mode of being? Because obviously the system that has been in place that has done this type of thing before, right? Sean Bell, I think it was on his wedding day, right? Or was that Amadou Diallo? Who same thing, right? Whole bunch of bullets.
It's so many brothers that have been killed by the police, man. I'm not even gonna lie. I gotta Google the stories to make sure I got all the facts right.
So it's like, it's proven itself to be resilient. And that's because we scream and we shout and we march, but we don't get to the policy that allowed it to be okay and dismantle that. And so that's the work of those who are concerned.
That's the work in both situations. Like in both situations. Who are the policy makers in your state? Now, before they repealed Roe v. Wade, that should have been known. But now,
definitely,
it's critical for you to know that. For you to know if there are any sort of communities that you're involved with, who are they supporting? The communities that, if you're a sorority, fraternity, or some sort of community group or a church or something like that, or you're in some sort of whatever civic community,
whatever. Yeah,
civic community, whatever your community is, the people that you're around, who are they supporting? Where are the votes going? And do the people that are voting in this direction know what their vote is doing for policy? Right. So those are different points of engagement. And really, if you don't have the time or the desire to go that far, I wouldn't say that's the end. At least know who you're voting for. Right. At least know who you're voting for, and at least know who the person is that will make these sort of decisions. I think that's not hard, and that's not unreasonable, right? At least when you're in dialogue, try to begin to discern an issue and discern a matter, as opposed to casting a judgment to demonize or to glorify one party or the other. And I think that, that's what comes out of these real life scenarios. But I mean, I think we all can do better discerning situations.
That's
And
the
this just
word.
kind of shows, how lives can be
Impacted.
ruined
Yeah.
and killed based on breaches in discernment, and not promoting a society that does this, that practices discerning, regardless of whatever your moral framework is.
Hmm.
Do you have a practice of discerning through a situation, weighing the costs and the outcomes?
I'm not gonna
So
be
that's
cynical and
all I
say what
got,
I
man. You
think.
got any final words?
Um, just we need to do better, all of us, in discerning and in choosing people who know how to discern and make decisions, the tough decisions, and not just the politically expedient ones. But people won't move until those who actually have the power begin to engage um, in those conceptual ways, in those important ways, beyond just holding up a sign or marching, but actually getting to who is this policymaker? Who is this person
Mm.
that says it's okay that a 10-year-old bring a baby into the world? Who is this person that says it's okay to shoot someone 60 times that are unarmed and it be okay? Right? We have to humanize people, but also put a face to those who are allowing the evil to happen. Because um, how can two walk together except they be agreed, right? And so if we're
Hmm.
okay with what's happening, we must agree with it. And if we're not okay, then we have to state our opposition and begin to change things. So this is what we do here on the MasterMinds podcast. We bring you the real ish, um,
The real stuff, man. The
and
real
challenge you
stuff.
to do something about what we're complaining, what we see, because we are the change that we need to see. So, see life. It was good, man. It's difficult. We'll be back next week. Probably follow up on this because I'm sure more details will have come out about both of these things, and we'll see what we do. In the meantime, peace.
Just go ahead and click that like button, like, subscribe, and even share, just to help us